Hey folks, it's Vic. So today I'm talking about what you need to do to pick the correct resort for you when staying at Walt Disney World. And a few things prior to that. I will put a note at the bottom in the description of the times that you can kind of skip ahead if you've already heard this information or you already know what you're planning to do. But I am going to talk about finding the right flight price to get to Disney because that's going to affect picking your days staying at Disney. I'm going to talk about staying on and off property, and then I'm going to break down the differences in the resorts between a value, a moderate, and a deluxe. So as far as when to go to Disney, that's the first question you need to think of is when you're going to go. Really make sure you look at those break calendars for school. Think about if you'd be willing to take them out of school a couple of days on the beginning or the end of a break to make a trip happen if it's significantly cheaper. If you have younger kids that are not school age, definitely go when it's not a school break time. If you can, you're going to probably have a little bit of a cheaper pricing and you're going to have fewer crowds. As far as school breaks go, I get it all the time. Which one should I go on? I personally like spring break. I think the crowds are really manageable and I think the weather is really, really nice. As far as pricing, I think it prices out really well for a break. Especially the first half of spring break. We have a 2-week break on our where we are, but I find that the beginning is better, and then that's better for parents because you can unpack and unwind when you get home and not send them right back to school. So I like spring break. There are perks to every single break. If you go during the fall, you can go to the Halloween party. If you go during the winter, you can go to the Christmas party and see the Christmas decorations. If you go during the summer, of course, you can go longer. You can go to the beach. It is hot though. So just keep those in mind, and let me just say it now, and you'll hear me say it many times again. It does rain in Florida almost every day, probably around 3 p.m. So just know that it is going to rain. So rainy season or not, you're going to have rain. So don't make that an indicator of your trip. All right. So as far as when to go, so say you've chosen to go during spring break. Now we need to look at flights. Check all flight carriers. Make sure you are flying into MCO, which is Orlando. The Magical Express only runs through MCO, not through Sanford. So if you're going to do Allegiant or Spirit, no, I think it's just Allegiant, maybe Frontier, some of the cheaper carriers, they go to Sanford, which does not have direct transportation to Disney. That's fine if you don't have little kids in car seats and you could do an Uber. If it's significantly cheaper for you or way easier to fly one of those into Sanford, that's fine. Just know that you won't have that free transportation bus. So an Uber is about $60 each way, so just plan for that in your budgeting. So really be cognizant of the day before and day after traveling. This is huge for Disney. So, or any vacation, honestly. So if I wanted to leave on Saturday morning because my kids just got done and spring break starts on Saturday, right? And I want the nonstop flight that's at 7 a.m. Well, if I've waited to book for a while and I miss the initial launch of these flight prices, they might be a significantly higher price. So maybe it's a $200 flight per person on the way there only. If I'm paying $200 per person to get to Orlando, leaving Saturday morning at 7 a.m., if I just look at the calendar for when flights are going, there might be a nonstop flight on Friday night that is $100, $120 to leave on Friday night instead. Nonstop, maybe 7 p.m., which means I can still get a full school day, maybe almost a full work day, and I can get to the airport. That's going to save me, if it's $120, right there, there's $80 times however many people are in your family. That's a significant amount of money that you could save. I bring this up because you can easily do a split stay at Walt Disney World. A lot of people don't think about this, but it's really easy to do. So I'm staying at the Boardwalk Inn and I'm spending $500 a night for my hotel because I wanted a deluxe resort experience. If I'm getting into Orlando at 9 o'clock at night, which means I'm getting to Walt Disney World closer to 10:30 at night, I don't need to stay at my nice resort that first day. Let me save some money and I can go stay at Pop Century for that one night after taxes and fees, spend maybe $155 for that one night. Right there, that's what I saved on 2 of my family members' flight prices. Then in the morning, I have them transfer my stuff over to the boardwalk where I'm going to be staying. And as soon as they do, I hit the parks and I can start out first thing in the morning and kind of get an extra day that I wouldn't have had since it would have been a travel day. So really be mindful of those flight prices. Look the day before, the day after when you're looking for your resort. Remember, Southwest has free bags, so for families, a lot of times you bring a lot of stuff with you on vacation. So I live in Indianapolis, Indiana. For me, Southwest, hands down, every single time has been the best option for me. So check all of those carriers. MCO if you want to use the Magical Express, and check the day before and the day after. Okay, on and off property. I get this one all the time. Why should I stay on property? And I say, oh my gosh, you just have to. That doesn't tell you why you need to, though. So let me break it down. The first thing is when I ask people why they want to stay off property, they have two reasons. One, they want to use points, or two, they think that it's cheaper to stay off property, which it looks like it is. On paper, it looks cheaper. A lot of the times it does. And a lot of the times, if we do the math, it's not. So things that you need to make sure you look for. I'm not going to discourage you from staying off property if that's truly what you want to do. I just want to make sure that you think about all of the fees that you're going to pay or the ease of it. So number one, you're going to have to pay a resort fee a lot of times. Sometimes these are hidden, sometimes they're very upfront. I've read many stories where it said that there was, a $10 or $15 resort fee, but then they were charged $30. So just make sure that you call your hotel specifically or your rental property, whatever it might be, to figure out exactly what it is per night you're going to spend for that resort fee. I would say plan on $10 to $40 would be the going, maybe $15 to $40 is what I've heard the average. Parking, do you have to pay for parking while you're there? Some people will say, well, there's a shuttle that the resort offers or the hotel offers. The thing to be mindful of these shuttles is that they only run a couple times a day. So maybe they have 2 trips in the morning, 2 trips in the evening. You have to sign up ahead of time for these. So if you don't get the time that you want, you're on the next time. And my biggest thing that I always play devil's advocate and ask is, what if your child's having a meltdown? Your child will have a meltdown at Disney. If you have a child under the age of 8 years old, they're probably going to melt down at some point. There's just too much stimulation. They're not having a nap. They're eating sugar. All of the things combine for Meltdown City. So just be aware that that probably will happen. So what happens if you're getting one that's really bad and the only thing that you know is going to fix it is going back to the hotel room, watching a movie, or just going to sleep and taking a nap and trying again? You're stuck at the park or taking an Uber. If you have a car seat kiddo, are you able to take them out? You're not going to have a car seat. What does that look like if the day goes wrong? Just put it out there. Parents, we have to think of that. So that's one thing. So the shuttles, sometimes you have to pay for them. Are they included? If you do a park hopper or you change parks, are you going to be able to get on that same shuttle on the way home? If it was a Magic Kingdom shuttle and you wind up at Animal Kingdom for the evening, can you get home? So we need to ask those questions if you're going to stay off property. So the next thing is points. If you were thinking about using points, just look at the Swan and Dolphin hotels. They're Marriott points, and you can stay there. I've been with a friend who used her Marriott points for our stay one time, which was great. So we can look into that, which is an on-property option using points. As far as the transportation, this is the biggest reason why you stay on a property. So right now, hopefully I've showed you the fees potentially that you're spending to stay at that resort and or the shuttle. Transportation on Walt Disney World property is the easiest thing in the world. There are buses and or boats or a monorail, depending on where you stay, that run from about an hour before park opening to an hour after park close and take you anywhere you need to go. The only thing you can't do is go from hotel to hotel, but typically you're going to a park anyway. So to get from any hotel to any park is going to take you a max of 20 minutes, typically closer to 15. To get to any park from staying off property, you're going to drive your vehicle in, most likely, and you're going to drive in, you're going to wait in a line to get into the parking facility. You're going to pay $20, $25 for parking. You're going to unload your kids, unload the stroller out of the car. You're going to wait on a tram to take you to the ticketing center. Once you get to the ticketing center, you'll go through security, and you will go on a boat or bus of some sort, get somehow from that ticketing center into the park. So that process, truthfully, to get in and to the park could easily take an hour. to get out, depending on if you stay to watch fireworks. So if you're at Magic Kingdom and you stay with everybody else to watch fireworks, you're going to have overly tired kids that you're getting loaded into the car. Maybe they're hungry, you were waiting to eat when you got back, and you could easily be waiting in an exit line for another hour to get out. I've never done this personally. I have used the ticketing center from an Uber ride to get in. But I watch this from the busing or from the monorail. So when I'm leaving, I can see all of the red taillights trying to get out. And it looks miserable, to be honest. So it's an experience that I don't want. And so I am glad to pay a little bit more potentially to stay on property so I can just get on a bus with my kids and 15, 20 minutes later be walking to my hotel room. So the other thing is that you will get magic bands included with your stay at Walt Disney World. It serves as your key to get into your room. So that would be a $15 charge additionally per person if you were staying off property and wanted to use magic bands. You don't have to use magic bands. Your ticket for Disney will be on like a gift card form, so it'll have a barcode, so you can use that. But a magic band definitely does make things a lot easier for you because you don't have to carry anything. So you'll have your magic bands, which is a $15 value per person included. And then you will have Disney theming and Disney help and Disney people around you all the time. So if your kids especially are younger, they're going to really appreciate the Disney touches that you can see. If you're at a value resort, you're going to see big, flashy Disney fun kid theming. If you're at a moderate or deluxe, you're going to see more subdued and more minimalistic theming, but you're definitely going to notice it. So you'll find hidden Mickeys in your carpet or stuff like that, which is fun and kind of keeps the Disney theme going. As far as the people are all Disney employees. They are all amazingly kind and nice, and they're very helpful. So if you are going to miss a dining reservation because your kid is having a rough day, you would go to the front desk and they'll help you sort it out. Your app isn't working right, they'll help you figure it out. So there's a level of support there that is going to help you navigate your trip if you're ever having problems, which is a really nice thing. And a lot of clients of mine have had to use the front desk to help with things. Their dining plan isn't working properly, or their ticket isn't showing up, whatever it might be, electronically, because sometimes these things fail us. Let's see. That would be about the big difference. Okay. I would say add up the prices, and if it's not that significant, it's definitely worth staying on property. It's the only way that I'll do a trip, and there's a reason for that because I am a penny pincher. Okay, so I want to go over this page. I went to the Disney World website. I hit places to stay. That's how I got here. So a couple things. One, I would say always enter our information just so you can see availability, because you don't want to have your heart set on a resort and not have availability. But a couple things to note. Resort location. This is particularly important if you're going for a shorter stay and you know that you're only going to be going to maybe Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios, whatever it might be. If you have younger kids, you're definitely going to do Magic Kingdom, probably 2 days. That's the going thought. So you want to be closer to the area in which you are going to be spending your time. That makes sense because it's going to be shorter transportation. As far as our resort categories, we have, let me go back, view all resorts. Value, which is going to be our entry level. We have moderate, which is going to be our mid, and we have deluxe, which is going to be our high. A villa is going to definitely be more of a condo type feeling, where you're going to have, kitchen and bigger space, more bedding opportunities. So we have that. We do have campgrounds if you wanted to actually pitch a tent or if you wanted to bring an RV. Pricing, though, just a heads up, if you're doing an RV option, is not that significantly cheaper than staying at a value. So if that was something you're comparing, I don't think it's that big of a price saver. So the biggest thing is that we would select our category and we'll go from there. So I'll select values, and I will show you the differences and what deluxe or value resorts kind of look like. So these are rack rate prices. That means that my hope is that we could always apply a discount to your stay. However, sometimes it doesn't work out. The way it doesn't work out are for 2 reasons. One, we booked your trip earlier than the new year's prices have been released, i.e. we locked in a lower price for you. So I have multiple clients now that I've tried to apply a promotion for, and it makes their trip a few $100s more because we got them in at an earlier point, which is a great reason why you book ahead of time. So that's one reason. And the other reason is if we can't get a promotion, it's because they release so few sometimes of some of them. So at each resort, they only have X number of rooms that have a promotion that can be tied to them, meaning that sometimes they just get taken up before we can get to them. So this is the rack rate price. This does not include taxes. So we do have to add that on. But what a value resort is, I would say plan on a you know, Holiday Inn, Radisson, whatever it might be, just a very basic resort option, very kid friendly, very theme oriented. Some of these you will see as far as transportation goes that there's going to be multiple options. This one has a Skyliner, which is a gondola lift system that Disney is currently rolling out. If you are going to take multiple transportations into account, then definitely we want to look at what the transportation options are. Theming wise, you can see that we have 3 different themes for these All-Star, which is the cheapest option. You kind of pick which one you think your kids are going to like the best. Other than that, they're pretty much all the same. And then Pop Century would be my favorite of the value resorts. I think that it is the food court, I think, is a little bit nicer. This Skyliner is a great option to add to that. And it is also a really, really pretty nice big grounds. And then if you have a family that is larger than 4, we can look at the Art of Animation. This is not the price for it. This is for a Little Mermaid room, which is a princess dream come true if you have like Ariel, but they do have rooms that can sleep 6 people very, very comfortably. So as far as the value resort, things to note. The pros are the prices. Absolutely, you get the best price for your room. You are looking at this resort as kind of we're just sleeping and, you know, we're going to be at the parks all the time. That's great. Things to note about these resorts are, 1, that they are full-size beds. They're not queen beds. And 2, the bus stop. There is just 1 bus stop that's going to be accessible at the very entrance of the resort. So that's where the bus stops will be. So just note those 2 things. It can be kind of a hustle and bustle, crowded experience in the morning when everybody is going to Magic Kingdom at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. So just be mindful of that. Give yourself a little bit extra time. But if you're going for a budget-friendly option, this is absolutely it. So the next category will be our moderates. So moderates. I have stayed at multiple moderates in these categories, and my favorite, I have 2. I like Caribbean Beach and I like Port Orleans Riverside. I like them both for different reasons. Caribbean Beach is a newer favorite of mine. This is my OG favorite. Caribbean Beach, the Skyliner can't hurt it, right? That's a great option to have that additional form of transportation, which takes you to Epcot and it takes you to Hollywood Studios. So having that, they did renovations on this and they did a really, really good job. So it's really a calm environment. There are pads of sand with hammocks that you can lay in and read a book if you're lucky enough to. The kids pool is a great option here, a really fun climbing splash pad area. Some good food options, and I think it's a pretty resort. It has a really big pond in the middle, and it's Caribbean themed. And if you've worked with me in the past, you know I saw a lot of Caribbean vacations as well, so it's a kind of a nice touch to bring me back to those roots. Port Orleans Riverside is still my favorite of the moderates, and it is because it is such a serene environment, and I think it's so pretty. There is a boat that comes right here to this dock, and it goes up this direction about 15-20 minutes, and you are then to Disney Springs, which is the downtown shopping district. So it's a fun little thing for you to take your kids on. They think it's an attraction in itself, but you can go shopping, you can go to dinner, you can just go get drinks and ice cream for an evening away from kind of the parks. The pool is an amazing pool here for little and big. The nice thing about this is that French Quarter is the sister resort to Port Orleans, which means you can use their facilities as well. It's a 5-minute walk up this path to get to this resort, and they have an amazing kids pool. So this would be a little bit of an older kids pool. They do have a baby pool, and this would be a younger kids pool. So depending on your kids, depending on your family structure, you can go to one pool for a while, go to the other, but it's definitely a great resort option. Coronado Springs is definitely much more of an adult feel. If you're going on an adult trip, this might be a great option for you. It's not very kid-friendly, I don't think. Massive pool, but not that kid-friendly. And then the cabins at Fort Wilderness are amazing. It's my go-to option for families of 6 or more. There is going to be a one bedroom, which with a queen bed and a set of bunk beds, and then in the living room there's going to be a pull-out queen sofa bed. Also pretty much a full working kitchen. So that's a great price point to have a bigger family in. So my go-tos are beach resort, Caribbean Beach, and Port Orleans Riverside. And that is the moderate. The big things to note about a moderate: you now have queen size beds. They're going to be a little bit plusher, a little more comfortable, I think. You will have a sit-down meal option on property versus just a cafeteria that you had at your values. And you will have multiple bus stops. So there's about 5 or so bus stops at most of these resorts because they are much bigger resorts. So that's something to note that I think is a perk, that no matter where you are, you should have a bus stop closer to you. And it won't be as Disney themed, big and bright, which for me, I think is a perk because I might be a little overwhelmed of the bright Disney stuff from the days at the park. So it's a much more casual vibe than the hustle and bustle of a value. And sometimes you can get some really good prices, which don't make it that significantly higher in price. And then lastly, we have a deluxe. Deluxe resorts are just that. They're deluxe. They're going to have higher amenities. They're going to have more things. They're going to have the gym. They're going to have, bell services are going to be a little bit more there. They'll have room service options. So there's definitely more things that you would find at a Hyatt or a nicer Hilton at these resorts that you wouldn't have at a value or a moderate. You're going to have multiple sit-down food options. You'll have multiple bar options. You'll definitely have more spaces to escape as an adult, and you'll have more expansive and exciting pools. The best pools in Disney World are going to be at your deluxe resorts. And the biggest reason to get to a deluxe resort is the proximity to the parks, hands down. So, you can see that now we have the monorail thrown into play. So you will have access to get to resorts via the monorail, which is going to go to Epcot and to Magic Kingdom, and it goes around 3 different resorts. And you will have a boat, which will take you to and from some of the resorts to some of the parks, just depending on where you're at. So when you're staying at a deluxe, the biggest thing is this resort location. You have to know where you're going to be spending your time. People want to go to Animal Kingdom all the time, and they want to stay with the Savannah view, and they want to overlook and see the animals below, and that's great. And I ask them how many days on their trip they're going to go to Animal Kingdom, and they say 1. Bad choice. So we can absolutely do a split stay and do Animal Kingdom for a night or 2 while you do your Animal Kingdom day, and then move you somewhere else. It's not that hard to do. I promise it's not. We do it almost every trip. But it's not conducive and convenient to go to these other resorts when you're staying here. So you want to see that this one is by Magic Kingdom. This one is by Epcot. When it's by Epcot, it's also by Hollywood Studios. They're right by each other, okay? So as far as this goes, I'll show you just a map. So this is an aerial, obviously a little condensed down of the entire property. So we have Magic Kingdom, we have Epcot, we have Hollywood Studios, and Animal Kingdom. So you want to really stay by where you're going. So this is the Grand Floridian, for example, which is the perfect proximity to get to Magic Kingdom. However, it's silly to stay at the Grand Floridian if I know I'm going to be going to Animal Kingdom and to Hollywood Studios the whole time. It just doesn't make sense. So you want to stay in proximity of where you're going. As far as these resorts go, if I'm going to be doing a lot of time at Magic Kingdom, it's a toss-up between the Polynesian and the Grand Floridian. I love the Floridian. My husband loves the Polynesian. We're a split household like that, okay? If I am staying at, if I'm going to Epcot and or to Hollywood Studios, depending on the time of year, if I'm going when it's a warmer month, I'm hands down going to stay at Beach Club. They have the best pool on property, hands down. They have a sand bottom pool. It's amazing, a really long, lazy river. So I would stay at Beach Club. I would not stay at Beach Club, though, if it was winter months and I didn't think that I was necessarily going to be swimming a bunch. If it was winter time, whatever, I would probably stay at Disney's Boardwalk. Yacht Club is right next to Beach Club. They're combined. Wilderness Lodge is a great option for Magic Kingdom. It's a boat to and from Magic Kingdom. So it just depends on where you're going to be spending your time as far as the resorts and the parks go. Things to note about deluxe resorts. Not only are you going to have either really close proximity on a different mode of transportation other than a bus, some of them you'll be able to walk to your parks. So there's a couple of them that you have walking distance. You have the option for club service to be on club level, which would be, depending on the time of year, depending on where you're staying, $120-ish a night more to add to your reservation. However, it's going to include a continental breakfast that's really, really good. Snacks throughout the day, light appetizers for dinner. However, every time I've been club, I've almost made it my meal because I've just gotten seconds. There's alcohol throughout the day should you want it. Coffee throughout the day, amazing Nespresso machines, treats for the kids, there's desserts, and then at nighttime there's a cocktail hour reception as well that you can have cordials and wine and beer. So if that's something to really make a relaxing stay, we can always add club level to one of your stays, which is a really nice perk to have when you're staying at a deluxe resort. Things to know about Deluxe, obviously you're spending a little bit more, but you're going to get a lot more. You have multiple modalities to get to the parks. You have a higher level of service. You have higher amenities within your room. Nice, or definitely very, very nice accommodations within your room. Last trip, my son had a double ear infection and I was in the room most of the time waiting to drive home from Florida. And I was so comfortable within my room the entire time, even with a sick kid. So that's what to think about for a deluxe. As far as these prices, what I've shown you is the nightly standard rate. Our goal, if we can get a promotion, so I say always plan on paying for the rack rate, but if we can get a promotion, a value, typically we see a 10% off the room category, 10% off the room. Moderate, we see a 15% off, and deluxe, we see a 20% off. This is all variable, it can all change, but that's the standard going rate for a discount if you're wondering what discount it could be. So for this room, we should see, $50, so $100 off maybe a room per night, give or take, would be the difference if we get a good promotion. So just think about that, and whatever questions you have about picking your Walt Disney World resort, send them my way. I'd be happy to answer them, but hopefully this gives you a good breakdown of where you might want to stay on your next trip.